Hello and welcome to another Gadsby's England video podcast at Euro 2016, and I am beyond delighted to have this great man in my presence. This is Mark Saggers.
Hi everybody.
Well, I mean, everybody, you know who he is now because you've all been listening to him. Mark Saggers, the chief sports announcer on TalkSport. What is your official title?
I do 5 shows a week. I'm the main live man. I'm the anchor of all the big occasions, whether it be with England or European Champions League, and of course European Championships for countries, and of course the World Cup.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's where we are. Really.
Yeah, you're in the States. What's probably known as the anchor.
I am,
you know,
exactly known as the anchor. Come over to the States an awful lot.
Yes, yeah.
And,
you're on the West Coast quite a bit, aren't you?
Get out to the West Coast, go to Virginia and Washington in September, and then back out the other side at some stage. So, Lee, I'm absolutely delighted though to be working with you on the other side rather than asking the questions of you.
Yeah,
you can give me some of the
no
questions,
pressure,
and I'll give you some answers back as well. But
well, let's get straight into it, Mark. I mean, you have become your rant has become sort of a cult figure around the world now. I've had some amazing responses from fed-up England fans on all corners. I mean, even Australia, which is, you know, normally they just tell me to get stuff. You know, how are you feeling a week on from that rant? I mean, are you still pretty upset as you were then?
I'm really bruised actually, and one of the reasons that I'm upset more than anything is because I've covered England for an awful long time. Started actually, I remember Italia 90 with Sir Bobby Robson. I was on the open-top bus after they'd come back from that semi-final with the team, doing work at that stage. They flew into Luton, and there was 250,000 people turned up to, you know, clap them home, if I could put it that way, and they hadn't won anything. And ever since then, really, we have been struggling to get it right in any shape or form. For the first time, we've got some of our players back playing Premier League football on a regular basis. It's not the so-called golden generation that never were and never achieved anything. But these guys had an opportunity with the right coaching and the right management and the right lookout to go a long way in this tournament. And they absolutely blew it, even in a worse way. For me, the feeling was than having been out of Brazil in 6 days before Costa Rica. Not to get beaten by Iceland, but also the manner in which the whole build-up to the tournament, the lack of proper preparation, and the arrogance that we only had to turn up here, go through a group stage that involved Wales, Slovakia, Russia. Well, there's no problems there. I don't know what my proper team is, says Roy Hodgson. I don't know what shape I'm going to use, but I won't try that till we get out there. It's just the way we do things. And we have been horribly caught out again. And there was no responsibility on the pitch, and there still isn't either. Yeah,
I mean, you pointed out a thing which many people in the States just don't get, because teams in the States, in their sport, they're structured so much, they're set up. Months before the season starts, a basketball team or an NFL team, there'll be no sort of picking and choosing unless it's brought on by necessity, by injury. But I think, getting back to your main point, you see this as a management issue, pretty much down to the line. Is that right, or
it's half of it? I see the managerial issues of allowing Roy Hodgson to stay on after he's failed in Brazil is not the way for me. I think it's got to be a longer term. I think it's got to be a different way forward as well. England want to throw money at everything because they can do, and think that will achieve them everything. It won't. We've seen it so many times. We need the players to want to play, we need the players to take responsibility, but we need them to be looked after and inspired in the right way. We've got to get away from the Football Association deciding Wayne Rooney's our captain, he's our poster boy, he's the man that we use for our advertising campaigns, he has to play even if he's patently not fit. And the other ridiculous reason of bringing other superstars into a squad when they're not fit and not even able to prove their fitness until they're in the middle of a tournament and then prove they're not fit is just woeful on the management side of things. Stomach, not having your best players there if they're not in form or they're not fit, and go with what you've got, but develop it over a decade. We've never looked 10 years. I've been covering football with England for over 3 decades, on 3 different occasions, and they'll start again after this one, and they will say, let's give it a 10-year plan. Well, yes, let's, but they won't. They'll look 2 years to Russia and no more.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Spain got right.
Exactly.
They had enough, you know. And on the show the other day, we talked about this embarrassing situation we were in, where we used to be able to say we're not alone in this. We have Spain, which was sort of reassuring. We don't have Spain anymore. Every other major country has either won the World Cup or the Euros that have that kind of much, the same facilities as big leagues. We have probably the biggest, the most expensive league, certainly most watched league in the world, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Of course, the problem between the Premier League and the Football Association is one that has to be dealt with again. You talk about facilities. We've invested in St George's Park. It is a magnificent facility, but Roy Hodgson didn't want to go there. He wanted to go home at night, back to his South London house. He wanted to stay in London. So he's the boss. So they didn't use it enough. You know, there wasn't a togetherness. I spoke to Dean Ashton, who has twice played for England. He was never going to play very much, and then he was cruelly struck down by injury, and his career was finished. But he told me only the other week, when he joined up with England for the first time, 7 of the senior players never spoke a word to him in the 6 days he was there. There were factions, there were groups, they were in the Manchester United, there was the Liverpool faction, there was whoever else it was. They were all at each other. There was no together. Wales, on their bus, have the motto, standing together. And my word, have they stood together. They've got players 2 divisions below England stars. They've got players who are out of contract and looking for a new club. And they've got players, in all honesty, that wouldn't even be able to get a game in the Premier League. But they've come together because they have inspiration and also, not just leadership, they themselves are given an opportunity to take responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it just shames us, doesn't it, that Wales have found this just togetherness and this unity. You hold your hands up to them. It's magnificent, and they've got a manager who was continued on from after the tragic death of Gary Speed. With that is almost the absolute main focus of them. And England, throughout the years, I mean, they couldn't find it under Ericsson. They certainly didn't find it under McLaren, and they certainly didn't find it under Capello, who alienated them. One thing I did notice, though, Sags, was that I'm not sure if what you've said might take this out of the equation. Every time I see England struggle, especially in the latter stages of the tournament, I notice the fear.
Absolutely.
And I see it in their eyes. And
absolutely,
the fear leads to a kind of a lack of concentration. And once you lack concentration, the ball runs that many more feet than you want it to.
England again, and Dean Ashton, I'll use something else that he said to me, was that he found when he joined up with England, all they wanted to talk about, who was going to be the scapegoat in the press. Is it going to be? Oh, I don't want to do anything wrong. Do I really want to play in this team? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? This was a real factor with these England players. But a lot of this goes down to the way we're now bringing up this generation of footballers. And Gary Neville should know better. In the build-up to 96 and Terry Venables, I used to have lunch, one-on-one with Terry Venables, once a month, for 18 months. And we'd talk about all sorts of things. And he was fabulous. And one thing he did at the end of every meal, he said to me, I want you to write down the 11 I'm going to start Euro 96 with. And I used to write this down on a napkin. And at the very first time, and he said it every time, he said, there is only one shoe-in for me, which means the only player that he would definitely pick if he was fit now. And that was Gary Neville at right back.
Really?
He was the first name on his sheet because he said he had the responsibility, the ability, and the bravery, and the lack of fear, and everything he needed to be his right back at a major tournament. Now, Gary Neville has been a brilliant pundit for one of our major television companies in the UK after he's retired from Manchester United. But he went out to Valencia to become the manager, putting the punditry to one side, and was hopeless. Had a terrible time of it and came back with his head between his toes. In fact, even during that 6 months he was there, he was still on the England staff, but hardly did anything to do with anything. Wasn't looking at players, wasn't talking to players. Got a full-time job to do all of a sudden.
Yeah, ludicrous.
He should never have been anywhere near this England camp, Gary Neville. There is no way he should have waltzed back in. I see now there is talk, and in the newspapers and everything, that he'd fallen out very early on with Hodgson and the methods and everything. So it's not just the players in cliques, although this time around they were a lot better together, they're just not grown up enough. There was the management structure was in complete disarray as well. But then I'm not surprised if your boss, who doesn't really listen to anybody else, doesn't actually know what he's going to do, and doesn't even know whether he's going to make a substitution or not. One of the telling comments for me was from a Belgian commentator, actually, who said, Roy Hodgson, it's like a cow watching a train go past, him watching England play football. He hasn't got a clue what's going on. And that's the way we felt.
You don't know whether to laugh or cry.
Well,
do
it's,
you?
in the end, it's been another chapter that we've got to get rid of and find somebody new and develop this England squad again.
Focusing on the players, and this is something that comes up a lot again with people in the States. All the things you've mentioned, absolutely, it was all wrong. It was all wrong. But we've been here before.
We have.
We've been here with so-called better managers, and I would name, for example, Glenn Hoddle.
Exactly.
It was very unlucky what happened in Argentina against Argentina in '98. We probably were the better team over 120 minutes. Disallowed goal. Oh, listen, we can go over it. And who knows what that team might have accomplished afterwards. But there is a pattern even before Hodgson of this happening. So this is my drum that I beat all the time.
Okay.
I have a real belief that these England players, and I know it's incredibly unlikely because of the money in the Premier League, but hypothetically, that if some of these England players went and played their trade abroad, it would do them the world of good, in my opinion. I think not just playing football, but learning the culture, learning a different language. The more you understand the mentality of somebody in a foreign country who's going to be your opposition in a World Cup or a Euros, I think the more cunning and shrewd you would be playing them, and it's what players of other countries do to us.
I completely agree. But what would you do in a country now that identifies players at the age of 8 like we do? Their parents have mapped out a financial and celebrity future for them and their young man. He's perhaps, by the time he's playing pretty ordinary international youth football, already earning £400,000. So what are we at the moment? Well, the way the dollar is, it's only about just under $500,000.
$25 at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But it's nearly the same parity with the dollar in that way. But extraordinary amounts of money without ever having had to incentivise anything. This is the other problem we have. It's gone from that. They play in a substandard under-21 league. We don't have any reserve team football anymore, which we really do miss. So they don't play with grown-ups very much anymore. And the academies may be brilliant at the Premier League, but 8 out of every 10 academy players that join their first club as a full academy player right the way through, most until they're about to start to play the game professionally, 8 out of 10 never play for the club's first team. That's an extraordinary statistic. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's dreadful.
I could go into maturation, where we don't allow boys just to develop over. Some will be mature at 12, 13, 14 in one way and not in others. Others turn 15, 16, 17. Others not till they're 21, 22. We discard them. We get rid of them too quickly. It's too easy just to not work on these individuals. Certainly those with an English background will buy in somebody else. But what we're now beginning to see are the Jamie Vardys who've been tossed on the scrap heap and then said, no, I'm coming back and I've got a job to do. He should have started every single one of these English games out here, whatever anybody says. He'd have done just as much against the Icelandic side, actually, as we saw the French do.
Yeah.
Little ball over the top, thank you much, run in, I've got an opportunity to score. He didn't fit the FA model, and that's another of the problems we've got. In the end, we are trying to be, not all people to all men, but certainly a specific way that the FA knows best. And I want to see the players. Harry Kane is a delightful young man. He's worked his nuts off, if I'm allowed to say
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
to get to where he's got to. He's deserved everything. He's tired. He's played 65 games this year. He can't admit he's tired, but he never got the service. He never got the opportunities that he should have done. Wayne Rooney, no one knows where to play him anymore. He might well have had his time. Why try and fit him into a side when he's certainly not a Dele Alli? He's certainly not an Eric Dyer. Joe Hart had no real competition in goal once Jack Butland was injured. We saw it. Joe Hart was allowed to think of other things throughout this tournament. They were closeted away. They were still surrounded by the people that tell them they're brilliant at everything. And if you continue to do that, they never ever learn where their limit is, and they won't take responsibility on the field, and they duck out of it, and that's why we're out of the tournament.
Absolutely. I'm going to press you one more on this, though.
All right.
Would it benefit them to go abroad?
Yes, it would. It would definitely benefit some of these players to go abroad, but how much we could get them to go abroad and to get away from the fear factor of being in a different country, who knows? Gareth Bale has done it. Ian Rush did it for a little while. The great John Charles, who was a great Welsh international,
Wonderful
did it.
player.
You know, and many others, but not that many have done that. It would do so much. Bex did it. Michael Owen did it for a while, perhaps at a career that was already forming, so it changed. But I really believe you could get some 21, 22, 23-year-olds to have the opportunity abroad to understand, and actually not to get too many miles on the clock by playing rubbish physical games, 60, 70, 80 a season in this country. Just time to extend the career. They're tired now by the time they're 26, 27 in England, without having done anything except have enough money to retire the next year. And the walk away from it all now is such that we're not short of the first £1 million a month footballer that never ever plays for a first team.
It's ridiculous.
But go abroad. And I'd also, do we bring a manager back in from abroad? There are lots of people over here who say, yes, we do. Jurgen Klinsmann is being talked about. I'd love to see somebody like that. I don't know whether it would work and be the fit for him. I don't have a problem with that. Slaven Bilic at West Ham is another one talked about. And I know that there's others who say, oh, you can't just go back to the old Englishman like Sam Allardyce. But I don't think we need a superstar manager. I think we need a coaching structure that works over a 10-year period when they're first introduced to England. So they play together at under 17, under 19, under 21. They get their opportunity in the first team. They know each other. They can't hide from each other as players. They're very much targeted as a development opportunity. And for that, we need good coaches. We've got a tenth of the coaches staff, the proper coaching staff and coaches they have in Germany. But we charge 5 times as much money for people to become those coaches. You don't have to be a superstar footballer to be a coach. Look at Jose Mourinho. Look at Pep Guardiola. Look at Arsene Wenger. These are great men. Any of those Englishmen? No.
No, and that says it all, doesn't it, really? I think Mark...
So I'm not ranting, but I'm sorry about this,
I think Mark
guys,
Saggers for chairman of the FA, actually.
No, but you know what? No, but the Football Association needs to move forward.
They're a disgrace.
When Roy Hodgson joined Martin, he had to be persuaded. First of all, just to let you know, after games, they have to do flash interviews. And every manager is due to do a flash interview with the television companies and the radio stations, who are the broadcasting rights holders. Roy Hodgson didn't do one after they went out to Iceland. Other managers, even at this tournament, have been in tears doing interviews when they've been beaten, but they've done it. He didn't do it. The next day he had to be persuaded to come to a press conference, at which he sat down and said, I don't know why I'm here. That, and sitting next to him was the chief executive of the Football Association, Martin Glenn, who has made his money in the food industry, so at least he knows what a sell-by date is, and managed to persuade Hodgson that was it. But he said, I'm not a football man either.
It's surreal, isn't it?
I think it is.
It's almost like something you'd see on a comedy double act. It's absolutely outrageous. Now, we did a little poll on this, because you brought it up, next manager, and Glenn Hoddle and Harry Redknapp were so far out ahead, you wouldn't believe that. So I have to put it to you, how would you feel about either of them?
I think that Glenn Hoddle has still got an awful lot to offer this country. I see Glenn a lot. I work with a charitable organisation with him. He still speaks a lot of sense. He's been out of the game for a while, but he's a football thinker. He's not a man, if you remember, who was going to be shying away from making big squad decisions. He dropped Gaza, if you remember that famous moment in La Manga in Spain when he told Gaza, you know, I'm not taking you. Hard luck, son. You're done. I think he's the quality coach. He can identify with players. Harry Redknapp can as well. Harry has been away from it a little bit, but I think that there could be a combination there that would work and help them through. I'm not going to say, because it would be disingenuous to say it doesn't, you know, anybody we get from wherever is going to do perhaps as good a job as a Harry and Glenn Hoddle, because they're not. But Sam Allardyce would still be in the frame for me as well. He has a lot of people around him, but I think that he could do a good job. Jurgen Klinsmann would be a great it would be brilliant for England. I don't know whether he would take the job. Slaven Bilic at West Ham United at the moment, I'm not so sure, but some of the other judges are. Arsene Wenger would not be my man. I don't think he'd take the job anyway.
He's lost his marbles a bit, I think.
I mean, I'm still for, in many ways, England as players, as coaches, and fans right the way through, and that's just what you have to get. We have enough ability, both in coaching and the progression of youngsters, to get it right. What we have never got right is the fit, because the Football Association don't always want the right fit. They want the men that they think can do the job. Not just the management job, but the job of being at the head of the FA. And it should now be down to a case of England first, from start to finish, from youngsters to first team, without fear, but with people that know the game inside out. Give them an opportunity, give them a chance. We've got players that want to play. We've had players at this tournament that haven't even had a chance to show their ability, because we go into another tournament where we haven't thought about it. 10 grand a day. 10 grand a day Roy Hodgson has earned in his 4 years with England. What a waste.
And the fans, as we're as a fan show, and I find maybe 1 in 10 fans who ever liked his appointment in the first.
No.
9 out of 10 people said he was the wrong man. They had Redknapp there, and you know,
absolutely. Harry Redknapp should have got that. I've sat with Harry Redknapp knowing that he should have got that job. There is no doubt about that. You're going with an Englishman at that stage. In the future, why not a Harry Redknapp with an Eddie Howe? There's another possibility. The man at Bournemouth doing such a good job. Perhaps not quite yet. Alan, perhaps just a little too young. Alan Pardew. Not sure about Alan. He does well at times. He's got a big season at Crystal Palace this year. Sean Dyche. He's no way is he, the Burnley hero again, a man for the FA. But my word, he'd do a good job. I think we just need to inspire the players. Chris Coleman has become a magnificent manager of Wales, with a side that he couldn't have dreamed of having the excess of skill and ability of a lot of those other England players. But what he's got is a team that stand together on the pitch and off the pitch, doing it for their country, doing what they're told to do, doing as well as they possibly can, not shirking that responsibility, not having the fear to perhaps try to win something, but it could mean they lose. And they go into the semi-final on Wednesday in Lyon with more than half a chance against Portugal, and with more than half a chance of being back at the Stade de France next Sunday to play either France or Germany. And if Wales were to win the Euros on the day that Andy Murray will win Wimbledon, there's 2 more daggers in the heart for English football.
Scotland and Wales, we might as well just float away as an island. Yeah, right. I must get to a couple of very quick questions, and I'll let you go, because people do want to ask you things. So I'm going to go to my list. I've tried to make.
It's okay. We're fast and furious with these. It'd be great.
Right. Okay. So we have Debbie from Chicago.
Hi, Debbie.
We'll start ladies first. Who says, I'm sick and tired. I've been in this country 15 years. Every time we get knocked out, Americans cannot believe it. They say, you have the players, we have the infrastructure, you have the best league, I watch it every week. I mean, you kind of answered this already, actually, Mark, but she just says, I mean, she saw your rant, it absolutely got her frustrations. But she said, here's her question, can the Premier League ever be reconciled with the England team? Can it even exist, she's put, and still the England team become successful? Is it possible to have them both in existence at the same time?
It's a really difficult one. They will always both be in existence. We are getting some more players into the Premier League. There has to be more of a building of bridges. But the big problem we have is that England players think first to their club and then to their country. That's the way they're told to. If they were brought into an England setup that they knew that they were able to combine the two right from the start and understand that that was the way forward, I would ask each player one question when they got to a Premier League club. When it comes to England, tell me now, do you want to play for us or not? And if you say no, we won't ever pick you, and that's up to you, because we'll move on. We pick people that don't really want to play for England, and that's the first bit that we've got to do. And they'll play, but they have to, the incentivizing has to change. If you're already on, and a lot of these players are, £150,000 a week before they've achieved anything, why do they care about a tournament like this? They don't, all of them, follow that Englishness that you've obviously got, I'm afraid, and there is going to lie the problem. It's a global Premier League that's magnificent. It's a little England that isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that answers your question, Debbie. We've got another one here basically saying, if this happens again in Russia, should we just, and it picks up what you said, if they don't want to play for England, should we just pick players who would be passionate first, even if their ability is not good? For example, players from the Championship.
Yeah, but you know what? We don't even have to go into the Championship. But we can go into the Championship, but why not go into the Championship? We have passionate players. Mark Noble at West Ham United would have loved to have been on this plane. Ryan Shawcross at the back. There wouldn't have been any problem there of Iceland scoring from a throw-in early on. You know, these are players that have played at the very highest level. They might not be the best English players when it comes to the pedigree, but they put in the performance. There isn't a problem. We could get a squad together. This European Championship, we've seen the Icelandic side, we've seen a Welsh side who would admit, man to man, they don't have the quality of England. So it's not the quality. We pick the quality. We shun away from players that want to play. We have them there. I'm absolutely with you on that. If you don't want to play for England, we don't want you.
Absolutely, I think that perfectly answers it. We've got Robert from Shropshire. So
Hi, Robert.
We do have some England, we do have some British ones here, who said, well, this is pretty strong stuff, he said, quite frankly, I would prefer my club to get a corner than for England to win the World Cup, and I think most fans agree. Do you think this is true?
I think it's very split, actually. I think that an awful lot of people follow their club first and used to enjoy England in these tournaments, but I think that England have an awful lot of convincing to get a lot of these fans back. Let's not forget, how much do we care about England against that club? Well, I think we all care about our clubs. It's the birthright of the club, and now there are others who will be fans of clubs when they haven't lived anywhere near the area, but why not? They're inspired by some of the players and the personalities and the quality of the league. I understand all of that. But let's not forget, you still fill Wembley for a friendly game most times. 70, 80,000 will watch every game. You don't get that anywhere else in the world. You get, I mean, don't start me on the support and some of the support. Most of the England supporters are absolutely magnificent. They will follow England till the ends of the earth, and they will also follow them at home. We have many people. The TV ratings, again, for those England games were unheard of in recent years with the multi-channel system that we now have. 17, 18 million sitting down to watch England play against Slovakia in the group stages and what have you. There is enough support for England out there. Enjoy your club, but I tell you what, if you can enjoy an England performance, you will always want to combine the two.
Absolutely. Again, so picking up another one, we'll do a couple more. Steve from Los Angeles. I am an England fans member with an overseas membership. I travel to as many games as possible, and I've been in France, and quite frankly, I feel Mark's same outrage, but even more so because I feel cheated. I've travelled halfway around the world, and I just feel that what I saw on the pitch does not reflect what I give. Is there an argument to lobby the FA to give something back, to give our membership fees back to these poor England fans who have spent fortunes, some probably going into debt to watch England around the world.
No, I completely, Steve, agree with everything that you've said on this. One of the other big problems we have, that the Football Association, it is the association for the people. The grassroots isn't completely sorted out, whatever they say at the moment. They feel they can throw money at things and get rid of the problem. I thought the points system for members having to go to ridiculous games abroad when they can't and then not have the ability to be able to do it hasn't worked. I don't care what anybody says in a lot of these things. But I've just told you that Roy Hodgson's earned 10 grand a day. I don't know how many days of the year he's really done the England job, but they should be paying the likes of you some of your money back. They should give you an opportunity to still get points but go to 2 England games for free next season. These are all incentives that they will never look at whatsoever, because I'm afraid money before the men and the team goes with the FA hand in hand. And I don't care what they think about this, because I've seen it. I've seen it from inside. We wrecked any sort of future for the England team a few years back when we had Club England. This vanity project of then Adrian Bevington alongside Sir Dave Richards, that they could take English football out of the FAO and leave the councillors and everyone to look out for the grassroots. We only care about England winning. Where did that get us? England losing yet again.
Got just 2 more, and one's interesting. It's from Eduardo in Uruguay. So we did get some listeners here. He said a similar thing is happening in South American football. The gap between European football and South American is getting so much bigger. We haven't seen a South American team win a tournament since 2002. Is there any possible comparison that we could draw from what's happening? It's a difficult question because we don't know much about something. He says I see similarities in what's been happening with England. They're becoming more detached from tournaments and from players wanting to play for their country. We see it down here. Do you see any connection there?
Yeah, there is definitely a connection. I completely understand it wherever we are in the world. We have these 2 great tournaments as far as the European players are concerned. We have the European tournament, we have the World Cup, we have the Africa Cup of Nations, of course, which is vital, and we have the Copa America, amongst other things, and a long drawn out qualification for each World Cup that comes too. I think in the end it all comes down to one thing. If you've got a skill as a young footballer and you've got a dream and you have the opportunity to take that, that is what matters first of all. How far you get is down to your ability, it's down to your thought, it's down to the way you look after yourself, and it's down to the responsibility of those around making sure that they have a pathway in the right way. But again, if it's all about earning the big bucks for the clubs and being disincentivized to turn out for your country, long travel and all of this, because it doesn't really matter for the future, well, the future of your family or anything else as much as the club does, that is why there is always going to be this big split. We've seen it with Messi. At 29 has decided he wants to retire from international football. That should be a warning to the rest of the world.
Okay, 2 more. We have this was bound to happen. Alan, a proud Welshman living in Los Angeles, says commiserations to you guys. My heart bleeds to you. I think it's a slight tongue-in-cheek there, Alan. Can Wales win Euro 2016?
Why not? Of course they can. The Greeks have done it. The Danes did it. Wales aren't a bad side. What they did so well against Belgium is that even though they went behind, they were comfortable in possession. They know what they have to do. Not going to be easy. They lose Aaron Ramsey for the semi-final, which is going to be very difficult. Gareth Bale has not actually shown his top form yet, but they know what they're doing. And I think against Portugal they have a great chance. And get to the last 90 minutes of the tournament against anybody. Germany aren't firing on all cylinders at the moment. They're certainly the best side, but they haven't now got a striker. They've got Hummels, who's out suspended in the next game. France are great going forward. Anybody would fancy their chances of scoring against France the way they're playing at the back at the moment. It is absolutely up for grabs, and it would just be terrific if the Welsh went on and do it. It would be one of the greatest sporting achievements ever, there's no doubt about that, but I don't see why. I don't see why the Welsh, they'd certainly go into the game against Portugal, possibly with many people now thinking they're favourites. That might be the one thing against them, but I don't think so with this lot. And I think we'll see another great performance from Wales. I think they will get to the Stade de France. I think they will then take on Germany, even though France have got that opportunity. I think we'll have a great final. My heart says I would like Wales to do it. My head still says the tournament way of Germany might just see them through. But even they can't take penalties at this tournament. As
Incredible. What a night. That was
unbelievable.
Haven't missed a penalty. It's in 1982,
Yeah.
and it's like the number 72 bus, isn't it? You wait there all day, and then three come along at the same time.
Exactly. Right.
All right, we've got one more.
Okay.
And this is from Nick in Clapham, and this is cheeky because this is Gadsby Jr.,
Okay, that's
my
no
little
worries.
brother and
Hello,
fellow
Gadsby
presenter. He says,
Jr.
"Can I have a
Nick.
job, please?" Listen, you little
can.
bugger.
You can. I tell you what, how you
we
get a
haven't let
job.
you go yet. From
How do you get a job in what I did? I never quite made it as a professional sportsman. For those out of it, like I was a cricketer. But what I did do is I then knocked on a door and thought, if I can't play it, I want to talk about it. And I didn't do what these players do. I had to work for 2 years without getting paid a bean. I learned to do absolutely everything at a little local radio station in those days, from edit to use the equipment to talk. I then went to Cambridge United for 3 years, a football league club, to learn what it would be like to be a professional sportsman. They allowed me to train with them every day. They allowed me to be a player liaison in a way. I learned about being a professional footballer. All of these things were for my tools of my trade now, and that's why even after 30 years I feel I can say what I've said to you tonight in the knowledge, knowing that I've seen it, I've been there, I've been through it, I've asked the questions, I've had the answers, I've been banned from the likes of Old Trafford, I've been shunned by Sir Alex Ferguson and others, but I've asked the right questions for you, the fans. And Nick, if you want to do that, you've got to work at it from start to finish. Asking for the job is not the case. Get on the phone and say, can I have a job? Let me come and do anything. Knock down the doors, get in there, and then start to think, one day I might have Saggers this job.
Yeah, and before we do that, we have to release you from Gadsby's England CSRN first, you cheeky. I'll talk to my little brother.
You do that later. Liz, look, it's been great to talk to all of you. As a part of my heart has always been in LA, and certainly there's a part of my heart with all football fans everywhere, because the one thing, the great thing is, from the moment we're born and understand and find this game, we're hooked forever with our club and with our country. And both to succeed is something that I'm not so sure I'm ever going to see, but I hope I am.
Oh, we hope. Mark, I mean, I don't think there could be any more questions that anybody in the world could answer about England.
It's been good tonight.
I'm going to write my Bible now based on this interview, the Bible of England. Sags, Mark, it's been absolutely brilliant.
And Lee's done some sterling work with us as well on TalkSport, who is where I work with now and everything. And let's do this again in the future.
Turn this off.
Is that okay?